Architects of Destiny podcast. Today with our special guest who is an expert on the Angelic Realm. Welcome, Angelo Thomas. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I'm sure that we don't have just you, we also have all your angelic friends. Is that right?
Yes. Thank you for having me. And indeed you do. You have a lot of angel emissaries around. I can feel them in my throat. So they're definitely here.
Wow, we'll see if they want to come through. But today we're exploring a subject that may be new to many listeners of our podcast that are more galactically inclined, shall we say, and work with beings of light. Because today we're going to talk about angels. And I must say, apart from some limited experiences with Archangel Michael, I haven't got that much of an experience of the angelic realm, and this is why I brought you here. Tell me, Angela, how did you first start working with angels?
I think the thing for me is for angels, it's very similar to my life as a medium. They just appeared one day, and it was when I was little, probably about 4 or 5 years of age. I would see instead of humanoid beings like spirits and grandmothers, I'd see the most beautiful lights around people. And it's like you said, Archangel Michael is very much the first angel. He's like your taster into their realm. And I'd just see their lights, their beautiful little colors and their sparkles. And as I grew up, I started realizing that there was this whole other divine realm up there that was separate to our little, like our astral world and where we live in the 3D. So it was, when I was little, and it was heavily influenced at the time by, Greek Orthodox Christianity and Church of England. So yeah, they tell you about these angels are these winged creatures, but they're really not. So.
Okay, so you saw them as a little boy. Wow. And
Yeah.
how was it, because you, as you said, you kind of heard something different about the angels from all the religious upbringing, and then your own experiences. What did you make out of it?
At first, you put it to the side because you're told as a child that you have an overactive imagination. You just put it to the side and you just naturally assume, look, there's something there. But it was also good that my father, he sees the angel energies as well. And he would always, not so much, nowadays he supports me a lot, but before then he would just be like, it's okay, it's all good, and just kind of placate me a little bit. So it's kind of like, I just knew they were there. I put them to the side and life got in the way. But I always knew that there was this presence that was just higher, like I said, than passed over loved ones that would walk in and out of the bedroom of a night or something like that. So yeah, your small child brain can't fathom it quite yet, if that makes sense.
But at the same time, your small child's brain is open enough to actually
to
perceive it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned that they don't appear like what, the religious kind of narrative lets us believe. So what about the wings and all of that? How do they appear to you?
Yeah. So I feel like this is a perfect segue into how they link with the work of the Galactics and how they sometimes appear, because I also, like you, talk to Arcturians and Palladians, but they're across many different cultures. People saw these energies, and it's when they saw this beautiful light in front of them, the light would just go sideways. And in our human brains, we want to naturally assume that a higher power is in the image of us. So these people saw these humans with these massive, beautiful auras and lights coming out of them, which is why you have people thinking that they were angelic wings. And that's where, the very primitive paintings, but it's through Islam, it's through Judaism, all those major monotheistic religions, they saw these beings with the huge auras and they naturally said, oh, well, there has to be wings. But it's, but that's what angels are. They're like the most beautiful, they're conscious beings of pure light. And that's how I see them. And that's how I approach them, in a very similar way to how I approach the Galactics as well, in that pure light.
It's interesting because actually I am very, very close to one very little known galactic race, the Lyran Avian race. And they are the closest to what the religions depict as angels, because they actually have wings, and they actually use them, and they're very similar to humans. But I believe that actual angels, yeah, probably don't look anything like the humans. So do they have any features? How do they appear to your consciousness? Is it more of an energy, or do they have any, features, let's say?
Yeah, so and it's funny though, because like there is a school of thought that you have the choirs of angels, so the different levels, and they look different. So yeah, the avians or the lyrians, they could fit within there of what people may have thought. But to me personally, for example, I work in the Akashic record space with Archangel Uriel, and how he appears to me. Now I use the word he just purely because it's what his name is, but basically it's a they. And how that appears is the most beautiful. I just visualize him as a hooded man, but he has no face. It's just this beautiful cloak, and from the inside of his heart just shines golden light. And that's how I perceive the angels, are just, as I said, like they're this conscious energy that just are a collective. And they, when they speak to us, he doesn't say me or I, it's we. We will give you the light, we will lead the way. So yeah, that I see them as beautiful faceless person, if that makes sense.
It's really interesting, because when I compare my own experience in the Akashic Record and Aaron's experience, he works there more than I do, but my first soul's incarnation was in the Akashic Realm. And actually, that golden light is like, for me, that's like gold and Akashic Realm is kind of like all very, very similar. But also, when you're mentioning beings without features, that very often happens when we kind of contact various races, especially the really high vibrational ones like the Pleiadians. I rarely see their features. It's more like just energy. But what really captured my imagination is when you say these, they say like in the plural form rather than singular. I think that's like a sign of like ascended consciousness, where it's more of a collective rather than individual. Would that be the case?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why the way in which I work with the angelic realms, it very much aligns with your work and with the work of that more idea of ascended energy, and keeping it in that space away from what people would now consider like, traditional roles and myths and depictions of angels. And I think it's becoming even more prevalent today because the ascension process is changing. It's being redefined. So more people will be drawn to this image of angels and this work than they would have previously with those beautiful angel images and statues, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's very much that ascended collective of we. And it's yeah, I can feel them already coming in actually as we talk. So
Oh, how amazing. So when, again, we dispel the wing myth, that's done. Now, what about the hierarchy? Because again, in this traditional narrative, you've got, like you say, the choirs of angels, the hierarchy, the archangels and angels. What's that all about? How does that work in your experience?
Oh, I tried to study it. I've tried to do many religious courses where they study it, where at the top sits the seraphim. And that is the idea of the six wings, the three sets of wings with the eyes. And then you come under there and there's the different forms of angels. And I think the archangels are very low, actually. Then you've got the cherubims. But I find in my experience, it's I don't try and get bogged down in the hierarchy, because when it comes to it, the angels already sit up here in 12th dimensional space, and they work through their emissaries, they work through other energies such as unicorns and dragons. So I kind of just put that hierarchy behind me because it's a human construct, and just work with the energies at present. These are omnipresent, beautiful beings, and anyone can access them. So I kind of think that hierarchy idea takes away that principle that anyone can access them. It's like typical religion. They always put the power to the people, power to the priests. But yeah, there is, look, we could spend an hour just talking about each individual choir and each individual group, but at the end of the day, it's just beautiful, divine, angelic energy. So.
Okay, my question then is, do they have specialisms? Because, that's another common belief about angels is that, Metatron specializes in time and Michael maybe in protection or something like that. You said you mentioned you work with Uriel in the Akashic Realm. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about, different angelic energies and how do you even distinguish between them? Because I find it really fascinating.
So yeah, so the archangels are kind of like they're as I said, they're midway down in that choir, and they're given to us. It's like they have no divine free will like we do, so they have to help us. And you're right, their energies and their frequencies are assigned to different roles. And one of the way that I distinguish between them is color frequencies. So when you think about that beautiful blue, the indigo blue, that's very royal and protective. That's Michael. And that's when I see the lights and I feel them. That's when I know, all right, cool, that's Michael. He's the protector. And then I've got Gabrielle, who is my divine communicator, and she helps me give me strength. She's that beautiful silver light blue. So it's over time, I just used to keep a little journal and just write down the colors. And, that many people agree on the basics of those ideas and colors. And it kind of fits in with color psychology as well. When you've got Metatron's colors, which are golden and orange and pink, which are very like intellectual colors. And then Raphael's is green and healing. So if you want to have a healing space, paint it green. So it fits in with that color psychology as well. That's how I help ground it sometimes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want to call on Archangel Raphael to protect you, there's nothing stopping you. It's just that, you find your own archangel to work with, you find your own what colors you love, you find the frequencies that you like, and just go with it. So that's how I always say, start with the basics and then find your own path.
It's very interesting. I don't see visuals, so for me it's about how the energy feels. I can actually feel Michael here because his energy is always very warm to me. It's like this surge of warmth, and I think I started first working with like cold releasing with his energy. Later on, I moved into Akashic language and Akashic realm for releasing energy, but I still call on Michael whenever there's something really stubborn to release and feel his presence now. But it's would you agree that it's about like everybody having their own experience and basically like almost like calling cards for all these different beings, and it's just something that you have to experience yourself because to your consciousness this archangel might appear in one way and maybe to someone else is a bit different, but is it the same energy or is it
Absolutely.
more of a universal?
No, it's absolutely that, because if I take a step back, it's when I think about all these beautiful energetic beings and that when you got source, the angels, the galactics, the ascended masters, it's they all like we all go back to one source, and it is exactly what you're saying. You have to experience it. It's based on your cultural experience, your racial experience, even your religious experience. It's through those lenses that you explore these energies. And there are some universal truths, archangel roles and their colors and all that. But at the end of the day, it's how you experience it. And you're talking about that warmth. It's so true. Angel energy is warm. It's a difference between spirit energy, which is cold, and it can sometimes be a bit hard to channel archangels because I used to live in Darwin and now Brisbane, and it's very hot naturally. So the whole time you're just fanning yourself. But yeah, I know people that feel the angels, they see them or they hear them. So yeah, it's very much, it's your own experience. But yeah, and it's all from your heart.
So how, if someone is listening to it and is wondering, well, I want a piece of action, I want to contact the angels, how would you do it? You mentioned the heart space. Is that the portal through which you communicate? Do you chat with your angelic team like you normally, like you would to a friend? Is there any specific ceremonies or rituals you use? How do you communicate with angels?
So you're right. So for me, it's the heart center. That is the part where I very much channel angelic energy. I go up here for my Arcturian guides. And the first step for that is you can, find ways in which to open that heart center. And that is to be very present and do activities that make you happy in the moment. Angel energy is very present energy. It's almost like if you want to connect with an angel, be an angel. So be kind to people, be grateful, be in the moment. Start to actually embody that angelic energy. And that's when you'll start attracting that, that like becomes like. And then from there, there are heaps of resources and books and cards out there of the different angels. Have a look through them and see, all right, I love that angel. This one looks amazing. And then use the color psychology. Archangel Ariel is pink. She's with the animals and nature. So spend time with them in nature. Have maybe a pink stone on you. Do something nice for an animal. Do something that embodies her. And that's when you'll start to bring her in, and you'll notice that life just shifts a little bit, because they're here to help us with our highest good at all times. So yeah, always stay present, stay kind, and work from that heart center. And that's pretty much the first step I ever say to people about angels, is embody them, and then they will follow. So
this episode is brought to you by the Quantum Club. The Quantum Club is a membership program designed to help you develop your spiritual abilities, such as connecting to your galactic soul family as guides, speaking light languages, channeling, transmitting and receiving light technology. Every week we hold live sessions and work with you energetically on a deeper level to unlock your divine intuitive gifts, to connect deeper than ever before with your higher self and galactic light beings. To find out more, head to bit.ly/Galactic Club. That's bit.ly/Galactic Club. See you there.
What are usually the messages that they have for us as a humanity? Is there any specific theme that comes through? Or is there any specific message that perhaps they want to share with our listeners?
Yep. Let me see if one will come through. I did have Archangel Zadkiel come through last night when we were messaging. Beautiful electric blue energy. So I'll see if that energy comes back in. But in general, the archangels give you very much collective energy, collective messages for humanity. There was a strong theme over the past 2 years of the angels saying to just remember that love is the language of the divine, and to remember to lift our consciousness and not get stuck in the minutiae of what's happening, but to look to the broader plan. That's what the archangels are very much saying, is to lift ourselves and to help others who can't lift themselves, or lift that consciousness. Whereas individual or smaller angels, they will more come and help you with that minutiae detail around, what should I do? My business has completely collapsed. I'm not sure how to go about this. They will give you little nudges and little winks to go do something else. And that's that little step by step. So they give you, a broad range of messages, from the collective to the individual. Archangel Zadkiel is definitely behind me. I can feel it in my throat already. I'll see if there's any messages. It's interesting because they don't come through like light language. They come through very much in a stilted English, or stilted whatever language you speak. Sometimes it's French as well that I channel them. Yeah, the message that I'm getting from Archangel Zadkiel at the moment is, do not be afraid of the transformation unfolding upon you on Earth. It's to go with that, to go with the flow. So they're using my words now. Do not be afraid of the transformation. From darkness becomes light, and your world is moving in a cycle just like any other world. Do not be afraid of the transformation. So yeah, you can feel that energy. It's very warm.
I'm soaking in it. And I feel that obviously the energy will be retained in this recording. So probably if you're listening to it, you'll be able to feel and experience it. But definitely we are in a season of transformation. And this angelic realm, they definitely have seen more than one transformation across the millennia and eons. So yeah, but from our human perspective, it can be quite scary. We're experiencing real problems. How do they relate to our practical, day to day? Do they help? Do they intervene like we like it to believe, with guardian angels and stuff like that?
They do. It's actually interesting you say guardian angels, because that is what most people have experience with. But it's like what I said at the beginning, like we have free will. Angels don't. It was and that's not a bad thing, but that basically means that they will have to intervene on our behalf as long as it doesn't interfere with the free will of others and it serves our highest good. We all know that we also come to Earth and we've signed a contract before we've come to Earth, and we know, there's the rough basic plans. What the angels will do is they will help make sure that we stay on that path, that we stick to that plan. They will also help in that broader sense, like the archangels, to make sure that the Earth doesn't go and do something silly like destroy itself. They will try and intervene as much as possible. So simply, yeah, they'll intervene. But on a more complex level, bad things still happen on this earth because it was a necessary karmic plan, or it was a necessary things that have to happen to bring about other change and other blossoming, amazing opportunities. So it's, I always say to people, always ask for angels for help, but make sure it serves your highest good and it doesn't interfere with anyone else's highest good.
I think that's a generally very good message in any kind of spiritual work, because when people say light or darkness, well, what is darkness? Darkness is when we're encroaching on the free will of others. That to me is darkness. That's manipulation, whether it's physical or whether it's energetic. And I think we live in very interesting times whereby not everybody can still see what's going on behind the scenes energetically in the unseen metaphysical realm. But unfortunately, as we are learning how to play with frequency, how to use frequency, well, oftentimes I come across situations where people don't respect the free will. So I'm really happy that angels, who, like you said, don't have their own free will, actually have very strict ethical code, and they kind of prompt us to stay on the side of a light, or stay on the side of our own free will. That's I think that's a very important message. Yeah.
And it's that sense of when we bring through angel messages or archangel messages, the angelic realms, and like I said, the dragons and the unicorns are in that space. It's about, we walk through this world as leaders, and we shine that angelic light from out of our bodies, from our consciousness. And it's up to other people to pick it up or not. And it's like you said, we don't manipulate it. We don't push our agenda onto other people. It's, you shine that light. And yeah, it can be infectious as much as it wants to be, or some people just never will want to open up to that, and that's okay. That's their path. So we cannot change that.
That's awesome. I also want to ask a little bit about the interrelation between the galactics and the angelic beings, because you mentioned that you speak to Arcturians and Pleiadians. I always wondered, being really friendly and really close to various galactic races, where do they sit in relation to the angels, or where do the angels sit? Like, do those realms ever cross over? How does that all work?
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning, actually. It's, to put it in my little human brain, again, it's that idea of the triangle, or even though it's just that idea of the triangle. You've got right at the top, you've got source, the divine, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. It's that beautiful, where, the energy is just the highest of the highest. From there down, I see the seraphim, which are the angels. And then we come down again and we see the various galactic races in their, from 5D to 9D. And it's almost like when you come down those dimensional spaces, that's where I see the angels and the galactics interchange. And to me, though, for example, the Arcturians, they are actually a species. They're a some of them are individual. And I feel it's kind of like they're us who have ascended into that light form, who have ascended into that, there's no longer a need for these meat suits, as I call them. So whereas the angels have never been a physical manifestation, they've never, you know, their whole purpose is to help guide and ascend other races. So the galactics sit in between the humans and the angels. But at the end of the day, I mean, I do work with my Arcturian guide during healings, as well as calling Archangel Gabriel. And it's that beautiful interchange of energies which can make a really powerful impact.
But that's a really interesting point you're making, because yeah, that is the difference, that many galactic races have gone through various stages of ascension or transcending various dimensions. Like Arcturians eons ago started in the third, and now they're in the fifth and higher dimensions. But that's one of the reasons why they've got affinity with us humans, because they've been through that path. They know exactly what it, maybe not in the same way as we are, because every race evolves in a different way, but there is definitely more of a human or like being element in it. Whereas I feel like probably the angels are, yeah, that's a really good distinction, that they are in a completely different stage. They didn't have to evolve, they just always have been at a certain level. So are the angels not evolving consciously at all, because they're already at their peak? You know?
Well, I feel they are. I definitely feel that if you look at where the angels, it's like it's with humanity evolving. It's our whole idea of the angels. They're very much evolved. It's I feel the angels now are more they're more accessible. They're working through their various realms of the dragons and the unicorns, and are actually becoming more how do I say, it's almost like that the ascension process is definitely being redefined in the background energetically, and those angels are actually evolving, where they're becoming more closer to the light. Sometimes they're less distinguishable between who they are, and that's because we are actually able to then meet them somewhat in the middle and understand that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which angel or archangel, it's just their energy as a collective. So I definitely feel that they are evolving. But I mean, once you get up to the point of the seraphim and the Christ light, I mean, that's pretty much perfection upon perfection. So I do wonder, where can it go from there? But yeah, I feel it's evolving for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, for us, even the galactic beings is already like, wow, we've got a way to go. You know, whenever I interact with the Arcturians, it almost feels like they haven't got an ego, but they say that the ego is the biggest thing. It's just the ego is nowhere near a human ego. And it's just all a matter of perspective and where you're looking at it. But definitely, you know, all these different interactions help us expand our perspective and bring different pieces of the puzzle together for this you know, humanity ascension and or evolution, or however we want to call it. So just before we wrap up, I would like to ask you, how do you see humanity's consciousness evolving? And you know, extrapolating on the message that you've shared about not fearing the transition, etc. Can you shed some light into how you see us going from now on into the future, and how can the angels assist us with our process?
So I very much look, I see a new earth forming, like many others do. I put it in my head as in, like, the current world now is blue and green, but we are slowly moving towards those beautiful divine colors of pinks and purples. And how the angels can, or the angelic realms, dragons, unicorns, can assist us is to teach us the that we're not going to get there individually, that we have to work together. And you know, and to fear change and to resist it, then you'll block the amazing transformations that come out of that. So let's do this together, let's change together, let's work together. And that's where the angels really help us put the humanity back in the humans, the humility back in us. When we're asking for something that's incredibly self-centered, like I want more money, or I want to, do something better than someone else, the angels will remind us that, wait a second, you're in a very, very privileged situation. Look at those people that would love to be in your situation. Why don't you help them? And then that'll lift your consciousness. That'll lift their consciousness. So that's where the angels will help us get to that new world, that new 5D existence, by doing it through the most simplest language, which is love and compassion. So that's where I feel we're going. It's going to take a while, but yeah, when people talk a lot about 5D, I say, if you don't understand it, just start with love. Just start with compassion, love, and then the rest will flow. So as well as where I see us going, if that makes sense.
That's such a beautiful message. Love is this universal language, and that's all it's all about. Probably easier said than done, but
yes.
but that's probably why we have all these beautiful helpers, such as the angels, such as the galactic beings, ascended masters, just to remind us of this, of love and of unity. Because I feel unity is definitely a big challenge. There's so much duality, there's so much division that we're still battling in this planet, to actually probably just soak in those frequencies, to see that it can be different, that we can be elevated and come from a collective point, is definitely a blessing. So, yes. Angelo, where is the best place to find you for those of us that want to pursue this angelic connection further? If you can point to your space on this bright white internet, then we will link up to this as well.
I think pretty much is where you and I have linked up on Instagram, which is just my Instagram account at @Angelo Thomas, and that's where I share a lot of angelic, whether it be dragons, unicorns, fairies. I share a lot of their messages so people can get a taste of that energy, but they can also connect with me as well to work with me. It's I teach a lot of people how to connect with the angelic realms from such a very grounded, simple space that they can then take their work on and go out into the world and do it how they wish. So yeah, let's start with Instagram.
Instagram. We're gonna link up to your Instagram for everybody who wants to get connected. For now, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience with us. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Architects of Destiny podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode.